contrast between field research on the one hand and laboratory research on the other hand, which is of course pretty close to the difference between experimental and non-experimental research, but there is some but that's just correlational. So correlational research tends to be in the field and experimental research tends to be in the lab, but that is not always the case. Laboratory research in that sense is research that occurs under researcher-designed circumstances. So we have control over what happens. But that doesn't mean that we have to use that to create an experimental situation. We don't have to divide participants into groups or assign them to conditions and supply them with experimental stimuli. No, we can just provide the same stimuli to all participants, or we can just observe them under these controlled circumstances. So this creates favorable conditions for systematically varying experimental factors, but it's not immediately or logically connected. It's just a good condition for experimental variation. Field studies, on the other hand, can be experimental or non-experimental in theory. So as was explained above, we have these kinds of field experiments or natural experiments or social experiments that we can treat or that come close to the experimental logic or implement the experimental logic in a field setting. For instance, a quite popular genre is the so-called field experiment or survey experiment, more specifically, where you create an experimental condition in a regular survey study by varying the questionnaire for different groups. So you subdivide your total survey sample into groups and they may get a specific question or a specific stimulus or a specific task specific to their group. But otherwise the groups are similar because you randomly assign persons to groups, and then you have a good experimental logic within a field study. Still, a lot of field studies are correlational in the end and don't include any experimental conditions. So non-experimental or correlational studies are the norm in field studies. In research design, we have to take several time-related decisions that can be quite different according in different methods or with different relevance in different kinds of data gathering.